On that note, now I'm going to introduce again Dave Collard, Ranveer Sanai with GE Digital. They're on the product management team. They're going to talk to you about the strategy and story here with Operations Hub. And take it away, guys.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, we're really excited to be here. And you know what? So I think, Dave, why don't we start by, can you please give us a summary of what is Operations Hub?
Sure, happy to. So hello, everyone. Just to start, I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name's Dave Collard. I'm a product manager at GE. And I'm a product manager over the Operations Hub portfolio. So what I thought we'd walk you through here today is the Operations Hub application itself, what it is, what we're doing with it, and then give you hopefully a nice little demonstration of what its capabilities are today, and even discuss with you where it's going in the near future. So with that, what I'm going to do is go ahead and just open up a presentation here, and you should all be able to see it momentarily. Please just give me a thumbs up if you see it, someone. Perfect.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Great. So Operations Hub, for those of you that haven't heard much about it or have been contacted about it from the AutomaTech folks, it's a visualization platform that we've recently released in the past year to really be the face of our product lineup in our Proficy portfolio, first and foremost. So it really is there to give richness and provide a nice ease of use designer interface so that you can take advantage of modern technology and provide all of the necessary information for your displays to the appropriate users in the context that they're looking to interact with that information. So the high level, this is a visualization platform for our portfolio. And the name of it is, of course, called Operations Hub. What we're really trying to do here with this product is to allow it to connect to, first and foremost, of course, our suite of applications in our Proficy portfolio, but also be able to connect to other disparate data types so that you can integrate all this plant floor or facility related information in one common environment so that users don't have to play, a swivel chair type activities to get access to information from different systems. It's built with the most modern of technology being HTML5, so it's nice and light and thin so that you don't have to actually have an on-client deployment of an application. And it connects to, as you can see here, different portfolio items of our own product suite. Some of these, you see a little asterisk next to some of them. We're enhancing this at a high rate of speed to include additional components in our portfolio, as well as other third-party components so that we can get all that necessary data. So things such as you see here today, we have MQTT connectivity, which seems to be the transport mechanism for the Internet of Things. You probably have heard a lot about, whether it be through magazines, industry-related magazines, or analysts, or even GE directly and our partners like AutomaTech, as well as exposure to third-party interfaces via a REST interface. That's a direct connection within the product. And we're really happy to announce that within the next month, we're going to be having another release, and we're going to have a relational database connector so that you can get data to and from a relational database and bring it in and display it in the appropriate visual elements inside of this visualization platform. Things that we're going to be doing in the near future, towards the end of this calendar year, are having a native OPC UA connector so that it can, one, connect to and from our own HMI servers, as well as having the ability to connect to third-party OPC UA components. And then moving forward, we want to be able to extend this into other types of capabilities that you have in your facilities already. So other type of custom IT built applications, or for that matter, other vendors that you may have acquired throughout the past many years. We'd like to have this be your single pane of glass connecting to those sources of data and bring it in and provide rich visualization, a rich visualization environment for your operators. So this visualization platform isn't just a runtime only environment. It's actually an environment where you can design inside of as well. So the fact that it's built with HTML5 gives it a web-based flair to it. So we actually have our clients access through a browser. So any HTML5 compliant browser can load our designer or the end application, which users will interact with in operations and runtime. The designer is quite powerful. It has a very nice structured element to it. So we take OPC UA structure and we allow you to have a modeling tool so that it acts as one, the ability to rapidly build your pages without having to worry about a navigation model. It also allows context to be passed from that structure to the objects as well, which lessens the amount of touch points for configuration in your pages. We have a whole host of visual library widgets. We call them widgets in this product. So they're visual objects that you can essentially select from the appropriate category or area in the library. And when you select them, they appear on the screen, and then they can be configured with a panel on the right-hand side here. So everything is laid out very nicely and very intuitive so that you can just select the object, see it on your screen, place it where you'd like, interact with it however the animations and the data source require of it. We have also additional components that are built into here so that you can have the appropriate privileges passed to the pages or individual areas of an app for users that ties directly in with your Windows security. So whether you're using Active Directory, whether Active Directory is integrated with LDAP services, we have all of that built directly inside of our what we'll call security store. And one thing that we've done is we've done a really nice job in the past couple of years here of building up a common security store across some of our applications. So that the concept is that you design users once, and then you apply roles to the application and privileges to those applications from one place instead of having to do it in each individual product. Moving forward, because it is HTML5, we very much have taken into consideration the different devices that are used in today's industrial world. So whether it be, you know, an actual PC still in a control room environment, whether it be some type of tablet or smart device like a phone or even a smart watch, we can send all the information directly to those devices. And more than just send it there, we actually determine what device it is when the session is established. And we send the appropriate page to that device with the right resolution and aspect ratio, and even provide you the ability to specify, for example, if I'm using a smartphone, too much data for a smartphone, you know, you might look at one page in one way if you're on a big monitor in a control room, but when you're on a smartphone getting just alerts and updates, you may only want to see a fraction of that information. So we have different themes and different page personas that you can have that get sent to each device based on the session that gets established. And then beyond that, this design environment allows for very powerful and flexible interactions with the objects and with the data that's coming in and out of the system. So the data can be read and write, and you have the ability to say, you know, do I want visualization parameters when a condition is met to show or not show? Do I want to move content from one part of the screen to another? Do I want to have the data on the screen update at in a particular manner? Do I want to have formulas so I can actually do an in-object calculation to determine the value and then display it on the screen? Therefore, the logic doesn't have to be in your controller, your data archiving engine, or even your HMI for that matter. It can be right on screen inside the display object. So, you know, you're doing all the design inside of a browser, and it still contains all of this powerful and flexible capability. So the idea that we have here is that we want you to have a very, very modern experience when it comes to how you design your pages moving forward in your applications, and how quickly it takes to design those pages. We do realize, you know, having been in the industry for multiple decades with HMI products and things like that, you know, it can get quite costly depending on how challenging it is to display certain elements of data to users in a visualization product. So we are trying to see every possible way to make your experience to build, to deploy, to maintain, and make that a much simpler and less expensive experience, right? So moving forward, we talked about this a little bit already, and that is that ability to have a responsive design. A lot of folks talk about that already today in the market. But when they talk about responsive, they don't necessarily talk about other things like aspect ratio or personas for devices. They talk about responsiveness that hey, look, I can send this page to a device and it will automatically scale in or out, up or down in a uniform way. But that's not always what most people want. In many cases, what people are looking for that we've been informed on is that, hey, look, although yes, I'm looking to get the same page sent out to those devices, I'd like to have, you know, I don't need to show the map. I don't need to show the grid. I just want to show the simple gauges or get a simple alert. So we can specify the different personas per device and allow that, again, like I said earlier, when that session is established, we'll send it out to that appropriate device type. And therefore, you're really sending the right context, not just around the process or even to the right people, but also in the right format for each device they're looking at it on. And often those things are overlooked in a lot of applications in the market today. So these are little things that people spend a lot of time and money to build into their systems just to right size the application for their practical purposes. Where, you know, we took a look at this and we thought there are some really nice things that we can do here to attract users to, you know, to this type of capability. So some of the things that we've also done around this Operations Hub portfolio is in trying to make the information readily available. Like we said, we can connect to a variety of different sources in the market today, not just our own platform, our Proficy suite of applications, but we can also connect to the third-party components. And in doing so, we thought it'd be nice to give everyone the ability to use this application without having to, you know, you can use this application with starter kits. And in these starter kits, we have a kit surrounded around our historian. We also have a kit around our MES application, being plant applications, where when you get those applications, when you buy our historian, when you buy our MES package, it comes with predefined displays for you, an app, we call it, with a bunch of pages that have been built for purpose. And they tie directly into your existing system and you can use it. So you don't have to, it's very much a off-the-shelf version of the product that you can use without having to lift a finger to develop. And then, of course, once you want to get into the creativity of building your own custom pages and interacting with disparate data sets, we have the premier tiers of the product where you have unlimited rights with unlimited users and things like that within the application. So we can have a heck of a lot more conversation around the commercial terms, maybe in the Q&A or even in a follow-up meeting. But for now, I'll stop it at that. And this is going to serve a little bit of the root of my demonstration later, where I'll show you some of these off-the-shelf components that we deliver to you in the product, as well as how to build your own custom components as well. So Ranbir, at a high level, in just a few minutes there, that's at a high level what Operations Hub is. And I was thinking we'll pause for a moment, maybe take a brief poll just to get some general information from our user community, and then I can jump into the demo.
Fantastic.
Let me fire that poll up here for you guys.
Sure.
Sorry, you caught me off guard.
That's what we're here for.
I was admittedly multitasking. You caught me red-handed.
I was looking in the camera when Matt wasn't when I could see he was doing something else.
Yeah, I was off. All right,
so what we'll do is we'll give everybody about a minute or so. I mean, it's just one question and there's only a few options here. So we'll give everyone a few moments just to take a moment to take time and answer that. If you don't mind, we'd appreciate it. And I'm just going to give a general answer from some of the feedback that I get from customers as well. And I do tend to see and hear a lot from customers that, hey, look, although we do have some packages in place and we have some capabilities in place, there's always a need for more information. There's always a need to get at information easier. We're definitely in the market to see if we can modernize what we currently have. And I hear a lot of that in different pieces of feedback when I visit in person or just through remote meetings. So I'm gonna put in here, you know, a lot of folks have something in their facilities, and whether it be a more or less automated or manual process. So I'm gonna put fair probably is a reasonable answer, at least from what I hear, but please give me your opinion as well. And there's always need for more information that is contextual and can help drive action for your users.
You know, and I'll just add one thing here. So this kind of relates to what we had talked about earlier in the earlier morning session about the importance of visibility across your plant operations enterprise. Because if you're able to see the bigger picture of what's going on, it enables you then to start figuring out opportunities for improvement. And that's why it's so important to have that availability and visibility, because that's how you'll be able to unlock those optimizations within your plant and operations.
Excellent.
All right, looks like we have the majority of the polls in. So I think at this point, I'm going to close the poll and share the results with the group here. And Dave, it looks like you won a prize because your guess was just about right. It looks like 43% chose fair. So I don't know if you want to talk to the rest of the results.
I certainly hope I didn't shift everyone's opinion as I said that, but yeah. So for those that may not be able to see the results posted, the actual question that in the poll was, how would you rate your IT, OT data availability and visibility across your enterprise? And the overwhelming answer was fair. I wish I had more data and KPIs. So that came in at about 43% of all the answers. Then in second came in good. I have enough data to do my job. I lack visibility on performance and potential problems. That came in at 23%. So that was the next big response at 23%. And then the last three were tied, and they came in at unsure was one of the options at 11%. Not good, data gaps, lack of visibility came in at 11%. And great, I can access all the data I need anywhere, anytime, 11%. And the folks that answered with great, that's wonderful. I'm happy for you, and your business must be thriving. That is a challenge that a lot of folks face, and I'm happy to hear that. And you know, it'd be wonderful to have a conversation with you about your experiences around that topic in the future, and hear what you've done and how you've overcome some of the challenges a lot of other folks face. So thank you for answering the polls, everyone.
Yeah,
and
thank you for clarifying. Let me just jump in, Dave, before you jump into the next thing. There were a couple quick questions that came in, and I want to tackle them before you jump into the next steps.
Sure.
A question came up just regarding Operations Hub integration. It's actually kind of a two-part question. One, when will that be synchronized with iFix? And two, what are the plans around Active Directory or Azure Active Directory?
Sure. So as it relates to the first part of that question with iFix, we are targeting a release towards the end of this calendar year. It'll be in version Operations Hub 2.0. That will have our connectivity to both our iFix HMI as well as our Simplicity HMI. So that's your answer for that question. That's towards the end. That's in Q4 of this calendar year. We're targeting for the 2.0 release.
Dave, I'll just add also, if in tomorrow's session, Scott and team will also give you some more details of the iFix 6.5 release, which is also coming at the end of the year, which will enable not just the visualization, but also then being able to have model in iFix as well as then exposing the model in Operations Hub. So there'll be a lot more details shared by Scott and team in tomorrow's session as well.
Yep. And the second question that I believe came in, Matt, please correct me if I heard it incorrectly, is when will we support Azure AD? Is that accurate?
Both. It was Active Directory as well as Azure Active Directory.
Correct.
Okay. So currently today, we support Active Directory in the product already. So that is already available today. I'm not an expert on Azure Active Directory. Is there a difference when it comes to Azure Active Directory and Windows Active Directory?
It's a good question. I believe it should work, but we can validate offline, Dave and I as well, because I'm not absolutely certain as well. But I do believe because we do Active Directory, we should be able to also support Azure Active Directory.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to, if you want to, whoever asked that question, I'm not looking at the Q&A window right now, but please follow up with Matt Bernhardt, and I'd be happy to take that question offline and do some follow-up like Rambert said. We can talk to our engineering team and see if there's some testing we need to do there to get a more complete answer for you.
Yep, Dave, you and I both know that question asker really well. We will follow up with him.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you for the question. All right, so what we're planning to do here is after we gave a brief intro into the product is we're gonna go ahead and share the product with you, show it to you real time. so that you can have a nice feel for what the product's capabilities are, what it looks like. And as you already heard from Ranbir earlier this morning, and you'll hear more from some of our other product managers tomorrow. So this is, again, going to be, or is for many of the products, and will be for some of the products yet to come, the visualization interface. This is our front end for those products. So today, what I mean by that is we have a historian connection, we have a plan applications connection, we connect to our single security store across those products along with this product. In Q4, we'll have simplicity and iFix, right? So this is very quickly becoming the designer and the end application runtime environment for users, for our customers. So with that, what I thought I would do is share with you what we ship off the shelf first, and then talk a little bit more about how you connect to things, and some sample data that I have in a very simple sample app, all right? So with the product that you install, you get an application called Historian Analysis. Or if you are using Plan Applications, you also would get a Plan Applications app as well. Inside of there, you have the ability to look at trends and plot data. So we give you pre-configured pages, which is all you have the ability to work with in those apps as sample apps. And you can go ahead and connect to your live historian. You have the ability to have structure on top of your historian to navigate down through your data. And you can go ahead and select your appropriate data, see the attributes or properties of that data and asset equipment, all in the sense of a historian. So you have that ability to look at information and add structure to the historian server product itself. We allow you to, if you choose to incorporate that structure, we have a drop down for your asset hierarchy. If you choose not to implement that structure, we allow you to browse the historian server in its native sense, which is the flat tags. So we're not forcing you to choose a direction out of the box, but what we are doing is simply suggesting that if you want to try this application out, start using it, you can start implementing structure as you see fit, but you still have access to use the application and look for your information. Just go ahead and select it, being very touch friendly. It's actually less clicks than drag and dropping. So just touch friendly, go ahead and select something and have it appear, deselect it and it's gone. You have the ability to look at historical representations of the data and interact with it in a variety of manners. So all of this information is available to you with what we ship off the shelf. And you have that opportunity to leverage that in the system today, all right? And I'll go through some of the other capabilities of the trending environment in just a moment, but this is some of the capabilities you have right now, is to have a modern trending application that ships along with to be the face of the historian product. When you'd like to take it a step further, and a lot of folks choose to, what that means is you have the ability to open up and configure your own environment. And with that means it's not a pre-configured application. It is something that we allow you to start with and build your own content. And by building your own content, you get to have the richness of the designer. And the richness of the designer allows you to integrate different components of your process. Maybe it's a map and you want to integrate it in with a GIS system. Maybe you just want to simply just show a top view of your plant and show the different areas of your plant. Maybe you want to have information being updated periodically on your screen, and then maybe bring it in when the data hits certain thresholds. You can have it appear when those thresholds are met. And you can have this screen, this type of screen, amongst many other screens built to replicate your process, however your visual representation of your process dictates. All right. So within there, this is just a simple example of showing some data all coming from our historian. So these are all tied to the historian. We're getting update rates on the current value of the historian. Then I'm going and looking at the sampling calculations of the historian to go get me the min, max, and average over the past hour. Then I'm plotting all the data points onto a trend, and I'm getting a representation of my process just by looking at the historian. So this is in what's called our analysis tier. And when you subscribe to that tier, you get full capabilities to build and monitor your system based on that data set. And then other things you can do, we have inside of here the ability to navigate, whether it be by a navigation bar, which you can choose to show or hide. You can collapse and expand it. Okay, this is entirely up to you if you choose to use it. It's one style of navigation in the system. I also have in here the ability, which many people choose to use today, just by simply selecting on an object on the page, I can navigate as well. And when I select on an object in the page, I can then go to a page and then go get the data from the appropriate system. So in this case, I have 2 historian systems, and it's going to get data from each of the historian servers and populating it on the screen. And then it also knew that I was at my north booster station, and I was looking at the flow and pressure of my north booster station. So therefore, the context of the data also was taken into consideration without me having to script anything. Everything that you've seen here in these pages has not one character of script in it. So there's no programming required to do very nice complementary things that allow you to display your process. All right. Some other things that you can do, albeit maybe a little bit, I just threw some other things together here, allowing, not all that visually pleasing per se, but I'm not a graphic artist. But this is just quite simply providing a pick list of a bunch of different types of items from my historian. And if I want to go grab items from my historian, I can select an item, and then I can actually go update the other objects on the page based on the data that's coming from that selected source. So whether that's in a manufacturing environment, maybe a product run, maybe it's an equipment performance metric, maybe it is in a more utility-driven environment, maybe it's just different pressures and flows and volumes that you're going to be looking at. The simple fact is you have the ability to interact with the page, and you have the ability to populate all the different styles of widgets we have in our system to create the appropriate outcome for your end user visually. All right, so one other thing I wanted to show you here is if I go back, and what I did is I just flipped to a different tab, and the tab allows me to go between the designer and the run environment. I was able to construct these pages very simply by these different visual objects on the page. So I have different types of things for doing data entry, different types of widgets or objects to present data in and display it. I have different formatting of my page point of view, so I can specify how things look and the layout on my page so it's consistent with my organization's style. And then I have other things that we have other integration objects so that you can integrate directly with components like trending from a historian, like the model if you choose to enable the model. In others packages, like if you use the Plan Apps content, it would have another drill down here with Plan Apps content in it that you can construct your page out of as well. And in the next couple of releases, we will be enhancing our widget library to support a variety of different styles of objects, from different types of plotting styles for trending data and different styles of charts, to different graphical gauges, and also just very simple objects like, do I want to put a circle on the screen to just indicate a status of an object and have it be gradient filled or look very high gloss and everything in your page. So the idea is that this library is growing, and it's growing by a very large factor in the next couple of releases, to have all of the appropriate object sets so that you can mimic your operations and present the data in the appropriate way to your users. All right, so that all happens inside of these widgets as you place them on a page. Now, when you place a widget on a page, let me go to a page that connects to something like our historian as an example. I have here my trend that I showed you earlier. This trend, quite simply, knows to connect to our historian because it's an integration object for our historian product. Other widgets would have the ability to say, am I connecting to a REST API, a relational database connection, albeit our historian again, in the future, at the end of this calendar year, OPC UA and our HMIs. And that all gets configured by this right-hand pane here, which has all the properties of the object for configuration. And when it asks you what type of object is it that you're going to connect to, that all gets defined in the higher level app area called data sources. And quite simply, we just say, here's our historian, and we specify the name of it. If you have more than one historian, which a lot of our customers do, we can connect to more than just one historian. So we allow you to have several connections to the historian. There's actually no upper limit to the number of connections to historians in the product. So if you had, say, 3, 4, 5 historians spread throughout your facilities or multiple facilities, you can use this to be a data aggregate. This visualization tool can aggregate all of those historians together from one common platform. Okay, so let's go back in here and show one last thing as it relates to the trending of data as it relates to the historian. And when I was just in this City of Pleasantville application, as I'm navigating through, I see I have an icon here for trending. And I was talking earlier about that there's different styles for navigation in the system. One being this navigation bar. Again, it's just a checkbox in the designer if you'd like to show it or not show it. It doesn't have to be your style for navigation. Then, of course, you've already seen me click on an object and navigate in that manner. The third manner of navigating is by what we call a context browser. And here, quite simply, I'm using the model, our asset hierarchy. So in here, I can browse it. And the hierarchy, it can be set up so that you navigate through the hierarchy as your facility or your process dictates. And if I go ahead and select North Booster Station, you can see what we call a breadcrumb at the top. And it shows you your path in which you've navigated to. I didn't have to tell my trend to go and build special files to plot data, plot the flow and the pressure for this location. It already knows by the context and what I identified as important information to initially load when the model was built. So you don't have to go re-enable it and reconfigure it at each element of the designer when you've done it once already. We just let you leverage it. So if I choose to go somewhere else in the system, maybe I'll go back up and go to the booster station overview page. I'll see that there it gives me the stats for the north, east, and south booster stations, albeit a little messy because there's a lot of data on there that's pretty noisy. But the idea is that you can navigate through your system and drive context with this context selector. So that's the third form of navigation that you have, which comes off the shelf with the system. So as you have this here, it's quite simple just to navigate through. And if I want to go to City of Pleasantville, I can just select in the breadcrumb and go right back to where I started. And I can see that trend. Okay, so there's some nice, easy ways that we've taken advantage of some modern tools for passing context, for building very modern looking pages and displays, as well as something that is as simple as just plotting of data. So we spent a lot of effort in plotting of data so that you can have a good analysis tool for your data archiving engine, being the historian. In the trending tool, we have that ability, which you saw earlier, to go specify if you're looking at your historian or your asset hierarchy, and you can even mix and match between the two if you so choose. I can go and grab another pen and add my flat tags from my historian along with my mixed model of the asset hierarchy. And that allows me just to very quickly have an ad hoc experience with the trending app. Now, these are privileges in the system, so if you don't want a user to actually interact with the trend that way, you don't have to allow them to. And then what we've done is we've added some nice features into the historian trending tool here so that you can go ahead and look at information. If we want to stop the update rate on the trend and just look at it in a static point of view, so I'll look at it over 5-minute sampling increments, just to let the data spread out a little bit. And I can say, well, you know what? I see right here, I had a peak and there's a problem there. I think I need to add a note. We can actually go ahead and add a note. And some folks will call it a comment. Some folks will call it an annotation. The idea is that we are adding a string into our historian data set, all the way down to the historian archive around this particular anomaly in my process, or whether it's a normal sequence or not, I can add notes. So maybe I could just say I had a sticky valve at this point, and that's why that reading was such. maybe, maybe not. And as soon as I hit save, you'll see that there's an indicator that presents itself into the trend tool so that you know, as well as everyone else knows, that at this point in time, there's additional information available surrounding the sequence of operations at that time. So if anyone else in any other console opens up this page or opens up a trend and looks at data during this time, they will see that there's comments available. And of course, you can add as many comments as you'd like. There's no upper limit. So you can add, note number 2. And you'll see that it increases to number 2. And then of course, if someone wants to go look at the notes, they just open them back up and they can scroll through the notes with the last note entered first. And here they are. All right, so some simple little things just to add additional context to what people are looking at for information. And the next version of the product, the historian that's being released at the end of this month, is exposing that comments table to through their REST API, and we'll also have the ability to show the comments in a table, in a tabular form underneath the trend in the near future as well. So therefore, you'll have other ways to look at the comments, not just in the trend tool itself. Some other things that we've done inside of here is we have the ability to look at data in different ways. So I had one manufacturing company ask me to, they're a beverage manufacturer, and they said, hey, look, we run our production line and we look at an 8-hour window based off our shifts. And so the duration of their plot is 8 hours, of their trend, of their x-axis is 8 hours. But they're like, at any particular time, we may just stop, you may ask the operator, how much of our particular product did we make over the last 2 hours? And that was pretty hard for them to figure out at any given time, to just ask with, hey, my start and end time being different and things like that. Like, we don't want to build the logic into a screen. We don't want to have to build a calculation tag. It just wasn't very easy for them to have access to. So they're like, can you just provide me a way, if they're on a trend, to just quite simply say, here's my start time, here's my end time, and then here's how the delta or difference between the two, right? Positive or negative. So we created this delta function so that it would just compare between the two elements and just give the value right then and there for the user. That's just one example of something that one of our very large customers asked us to do for them, and we got it put in the trend as a core feature. A few other things that we've done that you may have seen in some of the other tools that you choose to use is there's a statistics window, and you can see all the different calculations samples that are available, and it shows all that data right inside of here as well. So it's not just looking at the last stored value, but it's also looking at, what was the min over that period of time, the max, et cetera, all throughout that X timeline, all right? A few other little things that you can do inside of here is you have the ability to actually export data, print the PDF. You have the ability to, hide and expand the legend. If you want to just not have the actual icon shown, you can hide and expand that. A lot of folks will actually put more than one trend card on a screen, and you can do that as well. I saw a customer example today of a manufacturer, and they have 6 small little, that weren't quite thumbnail size, they're a little larger than that, but they had 6 trend apps on one page, trend widgets on one page, along with just 3 KPIs that were very important to each of those parts of the process. And when their page loads, they load in the appropriate context, and they open up and they see all the trends for their operators to see what's going on in their process. So very, very, very compelling analytical tool for a lot of our folks that are in the manufacturing or even the utility industry, to really get a good sense of what's going on in the system. So I know it's a trend tool, but this is most customers that I've talked to over the past 24 years, they all have a trend tool. And a lot of folks are always talking about a trend tool, just doesn't do enough for them. So that's why we keep enhancing the trend tools that we have. It's just because we keep learning of more ways that folks like yourself are looking to get value out of their trending capabilities. So I know I spent a lot of time on the trending, but I just wanted to take a step back and at a high level, just a simple recap of some of the things that we've seen in the demonstration. so far. So we saw the ability to connect to sources. I showed you the list of my historian connections. We looked a little bit about how you can see different contents through the different widgets that we have in our designer. We showed that you can navigate in a variety of different ways. We showed that the objects can be bound together to show the relevant data, whether it be from a pick list or self-bound to the area or context of the model. We've shown that you can have different conditions, like when a threshold was met at first, this didn't appear. And then when that condition was met, I had this appear. So you can set different styles of animations and actions to take place inside of the page. A little further down, we have a little bit more richness here with different visual objects and different styles of context being set in the trend card. This trend card right here, again, is being set by that North Booster Station context when it loads, so it knows where we are. And then the last thing that we didn't talk about is favorites. And we have the ability to save favorite views of data in the trend. So in this case, I have what initially is loaded for this North Booster Station, but in the North Booster Station, I may want to do a booster station comparison as well. So all I have to do is I could very easily go and configure this in an ad hoc manner and go get that data just by selecting all the different booster stations. But I've already done it once, so why go do it again? I have the ability to go ahead and save that configuration, and I can just pick it from a list whenever I want to have access to that information. And this is some of the things that I talked about earlier, trying to make common tasks easier for you, so that whether it be from the design point of view, you don't have to worry about strong development skills, being programming expert in any particular language, or all of the project content that needs to be developed to load certain context into a trend or time or context into other objects. All of that stuff is run through the structure of the system with our asset structure and our asset hierarchy, as well as the ability to save things so that they can be accessed at the click of a mouse or just a touch of a finger on your touch screen. So these are quick little things that we have here so that you don't have to always go rebuild capability or spend time looking for information. We want information to be readily accessible, and readily accessible by means of not having to spend hours, days, weeks, months engineering it to be readily available. And that's the whole concept of what we're doing with this application.
Hey Dave, question that came through related to not having to go find the information, but getting the information to you at your fingertips. So for example, one of the gauges that you have configured there, can you talk to in terms of what's available for alerting and notification capabilities? Let's say pump 2, as it goes into that undesirable state, what can you do to alert somebody through a pop-up or some sort of notification if that state occurs?
Sure. So there is different types of in the system itself, we have a mechanism to do some type of alerts depending on how the data is coming into the system. But we have an event engine inside of the system itself. And we also have an email system set up. So you can have email templates that can be sent out to users based on certain conditions or criteria when it's met. So based on that, the event engine would essentially say, hey, when these conditions are met, or even based on time, do something. And that one of those some things can be sending a notification via email to users. So if there's information is being passed into the system in a particular manner, an event can be generated. And then, of course, an action can take place. An action could be you writing, okay, an alarm came in, but you know what? That alarm might have just been vibration. It wasn't really a critical alarm. Maybe we just want to acknowledge it. Maybe I need to turn a pump on or off. Maybe I need to send an email to a supervisor to let them know of the situation is escalating and we need to watch it more closely. These are all things that can be done within the system, and you do it directly through these particular activities right here. These different managers, I'll say event managers or email manager.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for clarifying that one there. Didn't want to derail you there, but it was somewhat related to what you were showing, so I figured I'd jump in there with that now.
Sure. And one thing that I haven't talked much at all, really at all about, is that we have on the back end of this product, we have an SDK. So we have a structure in which we build our own model, our own events with, our own data connections with, and our own widgets with. If there's something in the product here that you think, hey, we want our way of seeing an object, like maybe this is the wrong style of gauge for you, and you have a gauge that you've custom built, we allow you to bring that in and plug it directly into the system. And not just plug it into the system so that you can just drag it on the screen and view it, but it plugs right into our entire platform. So that means if you have an asset hierarchy, it plugs into the asset hierarchy so that you can browse it and use the context passing. If we have themes that you have, like a style that you have with your corporate logos in the top left, and you use this color and this palette and things like that, it can adhere to all of that just by plugging it into our infrastructure. So if there are savvy developers that are, attending this session, please understand, we would encourage you to consider all of your IP you have built over the past years in industry, and you could bring that directly inside of here as well and leverage your own IP and go to market, even selling that if you wanted to customers, or at least leverage it for the own work that you're doing on behalf of customers. All right, so how are we doing with time here? Just want to do a time check here. Matt, are there any other questions that are coming in?
Yeah, if you're ready for some more, we can start going through those. I didn't know if you had more content to show there.
No, that was about all I had planned to show for today. We're about 13 minutes to about 3:30 here, so I just wanted to be respectful of the hour slot that we were given.
So I'm going to throw the big challenging question at you and see what you guys got in your arsenal here. So one of our anonymous attendees, they specifically checked the box that said, I want to answer this question anonymously, and I don't want to be known. They said, can you please differentiate Operations Hub capabilities versus Dream Report? And what applications or use cases would one be preferred over the other, and where would they be used? If you could tackle that one, Dave.
Sure can, happy to. So by all means, please understand I'm not a Dream Report expert, but we do partner with Dream Report in our portfolio, and we partner with them primarily for reporting purposes. So within Operations Hub is really built to be your dashboarding front-end tool, your visualization tool that connects to disparate sources, and I'll call it semi-real-time. For many of you, that might be considered very much real-time, and have a rich designer capability to present, nice dashboarding and operational type displays to your end users. I consider Dream Report a complement to that of Operations Hub, because Dream Report has a reporting engine built into it, whereas Operations Hub does not have a report engine built into it. So I consider Dream Report a nice complement to what Operations Hub offers from a reporting point of view.
I would just add, also, when you think of Operations Hub, the key thing is that we're really focused on creating industrial applications, which means only not displaying data, but enabling operators to actually do things like control equipment, control processes. If it's a manufacturing customer, be able to enter like quality variables. So Operations Hub is truly not just for dashboard or visibility, but also for actually doing your work. And so that's why you'll see like the out-of-the-box plant apps applications are built within Operations Hub. And the same will happen as we start extending to HMI SCADAs with the 2.0 release.
Thanks, guys, for clarifying that. It's definitely helpful there to paint a picture on the two solutions there in the portfolio. A lot of the questions that I'm seeing here in the Q&A session, a little bit more technical in nature. I think you guys know most of our folks that are on the line here, a little more hands-on developer, techie folks. So let me drill into a couple of those. One came through regarding Operations Hub and the connectivity side of it. Does it support AMQP protocol?
Not at this point. Dave, I guess I'd be curious to learn why. I'm not sure if the person, Arturo, if you could give some more details there, but I'd be definitely interested to learn more about the use cases.
Well, hey, I think we learned from the earlier session, Arturo's not afraid to talk. Let me see if
Yeah,
throw him on the line
yeah.
here.
Pretty good this spot, Arturo.
There he is. Yep. Go for it.
Yeah, because there was the discussion around the connections to Microsoft Azure using the security for on the Azure platform. So I wonder what other integrations you have planned with that platform.
And so, Arturo, maybe can you give us a little bit more clarity about AMQP
So
for
that's
Dave and I?
no, I thought that was the from what I'm familiar with. That's the protocol that is being they're using for the Azure platform.
Okay.
I might be misinformed, but that's where I'm at.
No problem. Dave, I'm not sure if you're more familiar than I am with that, but if not, I think we'll definitely look into it. I'm actually interested in learning more as well.
Yeah, we'd definitely have to look into that a bit more for you and get back to you on that one. I do know that we have in our very first release of the product, and we've had now 3 releases of the product. So we're about to release our 4th version just next month. The very first version was built and based off Linux, and we did support both AWS and Azure in that Linux offering, in which the platform itself still has customers running on. So, you know, I tend to say it is supported. Is supported on those environments in general, but as to the specifics, as to certain types of security or others, I'd have to get back to you. Right. So I'm not sure what security was enforced in one customer example versus another. So there might be some differences there from feature to feature of each of the platforms.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Just related to that as well. So if anybody else actually wants to talk verbally or kind of discuss some of this out, just a reminder, if you raise your hand in the Zoom session, it'll throw this little blue hand on the screen. We'll see that, then we can allow you to ask some questions verbally. So keep that in mind. I'll keep going through here some of the list of the other questions that were brought up. Next one here is regarding the gauges or the widgets, as Dave explained in Operations Hub. So the question that's coming up is if they could be tied to, it's referred to as system tags versus a hard-coded value. I think what's being asked there is more so bound to the asset model or the data structures. If you could talk to that one, guys.
Sure, absolutely, happy to. So the widgets that were like the gauges, the widgets that you saw, like the drop-down list, and even one of the graphs that were on the pages that I was demonstrating, they were being updated by historian information coming through the REST API of historian. So what that means is I created a query into the historian via a REST API query or a GET method to go bring that information back into the objects. Now, this may be more detailed than you want to know, but I just wanted to be in full disclosure of how it was working and what you were seeing. And the question that's being asked is, from what I understand, can I just go and browse and pick different tags from my historian or a source in general and populate those objects with data based on some, I'll say, animation threshold, whether it be color or just a value condition or something like that to that degree. Did I have that accurately? Did I state that accurately?
I think so, Dave. So, Dave,
Yeah.
I think also one thing that you could elaborate on in that context, I think it's what you and the team are working on with dynamic properties on widgets.
Yeah. So,
perfect, thank you.
Yeah, so in a sense, what we were doing is we have different ways in which you can specify a source of data in the objects. I ain't going into that great detail in the demo, but you can manually specify a value just by typing in the tag name or the value itself, or you can bind it. And there's a binding aspect to the system. It's just called a data bound property. And I was binding it just to that query. And I had a pick list example where I was just picking a tag name, which was a different tag name each time, and that dynamically set that values property. Now, we're also going to be doing in the Q4 release the ability to browse for a data set. So whether that be our HMI tags, or whether it be the model in the HMI, or whether it be the historian or other sources, OPC UA in general, you'll be able to do that as well come Q4. Then lastly, we're going to have the ability to dynamically set and pass bindings to an object so that you can put a placeholder there, and we'll dynamically pass information there based on the context of the page and the context of what the user is interacting with and working on in that area of their facility. All right, so hopefully that helps answer some of that and it wasn't too confusing, but there's a lot of ways that you can set data to be visualized, and we're improving a lot on it as we move forward. And a lot of that you'll see come. Go ahead, Render.
Oh, sorry, I was saying, so I think of one example maybe of what Dave and the team is working on is, so as a part of that 2.0 release is, you know, those type of scenarios where you want to dynamically set the high and low limits of a visual component based on data coming in for that widget. Those are the kind of things that Dave and the team are releasing as new widgets in the library around the 2.0 release.
Great, thanks guys for clarifying that. Appreciate it. Let me throw the next question up to you guys here. So this is regarding integration, operations hub integration with other development platforms. What's the strategy there with other platforms such as .NET, Java, Delphi, other frameworks, DLLs, etc.?
Yeah, so we do support different languages to be used to build widgets. So if that's what you're asking about, so if you have built objects in a Java type language, whether we use Angular, or if you're using Angular JS, or if you're using JavaScript or JScript or Python as examples, we would support those libraries, with whatever content you've built to be brought into Operations Hub. It is a Java-based application, so bringing in certain types of content built in, if you're going to build an ActiveX control, it won't run inside of our Java environment. But if you're going to build a middle service, we can integrate in and out of it. So my recommendation and answer to this is use a Java-based language, and then you're guaranteed we'll have support for whatever it is you're building and brought into our platform.
Just one clarification there, just for folks, when Dave says that on the client side, it's all HTML. So there's no Java on the client side. So that's all HTML and CSS. And so if you, for example, that's where we're looking at technologies like Python as a way to do things like scripting in the future. And so the other thing that, Dave, do you want to talk a little bit about is also the ability to embed third-party like applications or sites or pages as well?
Sure. So I mean, if you have, we have different objects in our library so that you can embed them inside of the page itself. So as an example, there was a question earlier about Dream Report. I can actually view Dream Report inside of Operations Hub. So I could have my process, and when I need to see a report that was generated, I can just navigate to the report page that is being served up by a Dream Report engine. That's one example. Another example is we have some customers today where they have analytic platforms that they've built, and we're integrating into those analytic platform in the middle, and we're the visualization engine for that platform. So they run their analytics in some middleware that they built in some service, and we pass information to and from the page to and from that service. So we have that ability also. So whether you want to run the application directly inside of the page, or whether you want to access information to and from it from the page, we have those abilities.
Thanks, guys. Again, just another reminder to the group here, if anybody wants to ask some questions verbally, just raise your hand, we'll unmute you here. So another question that came in, Dave and Rambir, is when can we expect to see other types of data sources in addition to REST API, such as Kafka topics and streams?
So we do have a roadmap for different connectors that we are going to be supporting. I guess the question around Kafka would be, Are you using that as a message bus and you want to just pass that into Operations Hub? Or I guess I'd like to get a little bit more information as to what you're trying to use Kafka to do. We actually use Kafka in our own product in different ways, but when I think about different connectors, I was thinking of more like REST or OData or different relational database connectors or maintenance package connectors, things like that, industrial connectors. It sounds to me like that question was geared more towards message bus data transfers and communications. I'm not sure if I read that incorrectly, but I'd like to get some more information about that question if I'm misreading it.
So that question came from Joel. Joel, are you willing to speak? If so, raise your hand and we could talk about it. If not, we could follow up with you offline. Waiting for it. Waiting for it. All right, we'll take that as we'll follow up with you on that. So stay tuned. Dave and team and AutomaTech team will touch base with you on that. So I think at that point, and given the time, looks like we're at the end of this session. Hopefully this is a good overview, in-depth review here of Operations Hub. Dave Rambier, thanks for doing this. Great to see some of this live and good way to round out our first day here on the first ThinkBIG virtual session. So thanks for doing that. Any parting comments or notes from the GE side?
Just thanks for everyone joining. It was I think it was a great first day by the AutomaTech team, and it was really fun for us to join for both the day and afternoon sessions. So thanks a lot, and yeah, please everyone join for tomorrow, the day after as well. So I think there's a lot of other great sessions going on as well.